one of the largest cryptocurrency platforms in the world, lost the ability to let customers withdraw their money in just 9 days. Imagine waking up one morning in November 2022, opening your phone and trying to pull out the savings you had trusted to what was supposed to be one of the safest and most innovative exchanges in crypto. The app spins. The withdrawal fails. You try again. Nothing. Within hours, millions of people around the world discover the same terrifying truth. Their money has vanished behind a digital wall they cannot break. Accounts that people had trusted with their life savings, their trading capital, their children's future, their retirement dreams suddenly became inaccessible. The company at the center of it all filed for bankruptcy protection on November 11th, 2022. At first, many assumed this was simply another case of market volatility catching up with an ambitious young firm. The records later showed something far more fundamental had broken. What if the money customers deposited was never really there in the way they were promised? What if it had been quietly moved, spent, and risked without their knowledge for months, even years? That possibility stayed hidden until one document changed everything. This is the story of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, and the largest customer funds crisis in the short history of cryptocurrency. It is a story of breathtaking speed, astonishing trust, catastrophic failure of basic safeguards, and eventually one of the most remarkable recoveries in modern financial history. To understand how FTX grew so large so fast, you have to understand the man who built it. Sam Bankman-Fried was not a typical crypto founder. Born in Stanford, California, to 2 law professors, he grew up in an intellectual household steeped in moral philosophy. His parents were consequentialists. They believed the right action was the one that produced the best overall outcomes for the greatest number of people. From a young age, Sam absorbed the idea that impact mattered more than anything else. At MIT studying physics, he encountered effective altruism, a movement that asked a radical question: how can one person do the most good possible with their life? The answer that resonated with him was earning to give. Instead of working directly on causes, he would take the highest-paying job he could find, make enormous amounts of money, and donate most of it to the most effective charities in the world, especially those fighting global poverty, animal suffering, and existential risks. After graduation, he joined Jane Street Capital, a secretive quantitative trading firm on Wall Street known for its rigorous, math-heavy culture. There, surrounded by some of the sharpest minds in finance, he learned to build automated trading systems, exploit tiny price differences across markets, and manage risk at scale. He was good at it, very good. He also gave away roughly half his salary to charity. But traditional finance felt too slow, too constrained. In 2017, he left Jane Street and founded Alameda Research, a crypto trading firm focused on arbitrage, buying low on one exchange and selling high on another. Crypto markets in those days were fragmented and inefficient. Alameda made millions. 2 years later, in 2019, he founded FTX. The idea was simple but powerful: create a cryptocurrency exchange that was faster, cleaner, and more trustworthy than anything else on the market. FTX would offer perpetual futures contracts, deep liquidity, and crucially would market itself as the responsible, well-regulated player in a wild industry. The timing was perfect. Between 2020 and 2021, cryptocurrency entered a historic bull market. Bitcoin soared past $60,000. New investors poured in from every corner of the world. FTX grew at a blistering pace. By late 2021, it was one of the top 3 exchanges globally. The company raised more than $1.8 billion from some of the most prestigious investors in Silicon Valley and beyond: Sequoia Capital, SoftBank, Lightspeed, and others. At its peak, FTX was valued at $32 billion. Sam Bankman-Fried became a global celebrity. He appeared on magazine covers looking disheveled in cargo shorts and a t-shirt, sleeping on a beanbag in the office. He sponsored sports arenas, ran Super Bowl ads featuring Larry David and Tom Brady, and spoke passionately about using his wealth to save the world through effective altruism. He pledged to give away almost everything he owned. To many young people in tech and finance, he represented a new kind of capitalist, one who was brilliant, chaotic, and deeply moral at the same time. Few people asked hard questions about how it all worked behind the scenes. The most important secret at FTX was hiding in plain sight. Sam Bankman-Fried did not just run FTX, he also controlled Alameda Research. On paper, they were separate companies. In reality, they were deeply intertwined, and that intertwining was never disclosed clearly to customers or investors. FTX presented itself as a safe place to store and trade cryptocurrency. Customers deposited Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins like USDT and USDC, and other assets. In a properly run exchange, those customer assets are supposed to be held in segregated accounts, protected, and available for withdrawal at any time. The exchange makes money from trading fees, not from using customer deposits for its own purposes. That basic rule was broken at FTX. Behind the scenes, Alameda Research was given extraordinary privileges on the FTX platform. Engineers later testified that, at Sam Bankman-Fried's direction, special code was written that allowed Alameda to maintain a negative balance. This meant Alameda could borrow essentially unlimited amounts of customer funds without posting collateral in the normal way. Regular customers never had this ability. It was a hidden backdoor built into the system. When Alameda made profitable trades, the money flowed back. But when Alameda's bets went wrong, and in 2022, as crypto markets turned sharply downward, many of their trades did go wrong, the losses were covered by dipping into the pool of customer deposits sitting on FTX. The company also created and heavily promoted its own token called EFTT. FTT was supposed to give holders discounts and other benefits on the exchange. In practice, it became a critical piece of financial engineering. Alameda held enormous quantities of FTT because the token's value was tied to the success and perceived health of FTX itself. Using FTT as collateral created a circular, fragile system. If confidence in FTX ever wavered, the value of FTT would collapse, and Alameda's balance sheet would collapse with it. Most customers and outside investors had no idea this structure existed. They believed their deposits were safe, segregated, and protected by sophisticated risk management. The marketing was masterful. FTX ran advertisements emphasizing security and trustworthiness. Sam Bankman-Fried repeatedly told the public that customer funds were never at risk. Internally, a very small group of people, mostly young, loyal, and operating with minimal oversight, knew the truth. There were almost no traditional corporate controls, no proper accounting department producing reliable financial statements, no independent audit that outsiders could trust, no real separation between the exchange and the trading firm that was quietly using its customers' money. On November 2nd, 2022, everything changed. CoinDesk published an article containing what appeared to be Alameda Research's internal balance sheet. The numbers were staggering. Roughly $14.6 billion in assets, but a huge portion consisted of FTT tokens and related instruments that were difficult to sell quickly without crashing their own price. The revelation was explosive. It suggested that Alameda's strength was not coming from brilliant trading alone, but from its privileged access to FTX customer funds and its massive illiquid holdings of the FTX-created token. The market reacted instantly. FTT's price began to fall. Then Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, tweeted that Binance would sell its large holdings of FTT. The sell pressure intensified. Customers who saw the news started withdrawing funds from FTX in large numbers. What began as concern quickly turned into a classic bank run. On November 6th and 7th, billions of dollars left the platform. FTX was facing a liquidity crisis of historic proportions. Sam Bankman-Fried went on Twitter, now X, and in interviews insisting that everything was fine, that FTX was solvent, and that customer funds were safe. Behind the scenes, the company was desperately trying to raise emergency capital. On November 8th, a dramatic announcement. Binance had signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire FTX. For a moment, it seemed like a rescue might be possible, but after Binance conducted due diligence, they saw the true state of the books, or lack of books. On November 9th, Binance walked away. The deal was dead. That same day, FTX stopped allowing customers to withdraw their money. 9 days after the CoinDesk article, on November 11th, 2022, FTX Trading Limited and more than 130 related companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Sam Bankman-Fried resigned as CEO. A new leader was brought in, John J. Ray III, a veteran restructuring expert who had previously overseen the bankruptcy of Enron. What John Ray III discovered inside FTX shocked even him. In his first declaration to the bankruptcy court, he wrote words that would be quoted around the world. "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here." There were no reliable financial records. The systems were compromised. Basic functions like accounting, cash management, cybersecurity, and risk management either did not exist or existed only in name. A tiny group of inexperienced people had concentrated control over billions of dollars. Customer deposits had been routinely mixed with corporate and trading funds. The special technical privileges given to Alameda were confirmed. Regulators would later determine that more than $8 billion in customer deposits could not be accounted for at the time of the collapse. The new leadership team had to start from scratch, rebuilding basic corporate infrastructure while trying to locate and secure whatever assets remained. It was an unprecedented mess. The legal reckoning came quickly. In 2023, Sam Bankman-Fried was charged with multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. The trial began in October 2023 in Manhattan Federal Court. Prosecutors presented a devastating case built on internal documents, code changes, Slack messages, and the testimony of 3 key cooperating witnesses who had worked closely with him. Gary Wang testified that he implemented the feature at Sam Bankman-Fried's explicit direction. Caroline Ellison described in detail how customer money was used to cover Alameda's losses and obligations. She testified about lying to lenders and investors and conversations with Sam Bankman-Fried. Nishad Singh also cooperated and provided powerful testimony. Sam Bankman-Fried took the stand in his own defense. He argued that he had never intended to defraud anyone and admitted mistakes, but denied criminal intent. The jury was not convinced. After a relatively short deliberation, they returned guilty verdicts on every single count. 7 felony charges included wire fraud, securities fraud, commodities fraud, and money laundering conspiracies. On March 28, 2024, Judge Lewis Kaplan sentenced Sam Bankman-Fried to 25 years in federal prison and ordered him to forfeit $11 billion. The sentence was later upheld on appeal. For customers who had money trapped on FTX, the bankruptcy process felt endless at first. Many feared they would never see their funds again. But something unusual happened. Under the new leadership and with sophisticated asset recovery efforts, billions of dollars in value were located, secured, and eventually returned to the estate. Cryptocurrency prices recovered strongly in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Legal actions and asset sales added even more value to the estate. A comprehensive reorganization plan was approved by the bankruptcy court. It took effect in early 2025. Distributions began rolling out to creditors. For the great majority of customers, especially those with smaller balances, the plan ultimately delivered around 118% or more of what they were originally owed. Some classes of claims reached 120% or higher. What had seemed like total loss was transformed, for most people, into full recovery plus a surplus. The money had not evaporated. It had been misused, hidden, and risked, but once independent, professional oversight replaced the old chaotic structure. Substantial value was recovered and returned. The FTX collapse left lasting scars on the cryptocurrency industry and on public trust. Regulators around the world accelerated efforts to impose clearer rules. In the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission and Commodity Futures Trading Commission pursued aggressive enforcement. In Europe, stronger requirements for custody and segregation of customer assets moved forward. Exchanges that survived learned hard lessons about transparency, proof of reserves, and the dangers of mixing proprietary trading with customer funds. The episode demonstrated why the ordinary rules of finance exist. Segregation of customer assets, independent audits, proper risk management, and basic corporate governance are not bureaucratic nuisances. They are the guardrails that prevent catastrophe. Sam Bankman-Fried had built something that looked revolutionary from the outside. On the inside, it lacked the most fundamental protections that exist in every other corner of the financial system. Growth had completely outpaced safeguards. Charisma and marketing had substituted for substance. The FTX story did not end with the bankruptcy filing or even with the sentencing. It continued through the long, difficult work of recovery. The realization that billions of dollars could still be returned to the people who had trusted the platform changed the way many viewed the collapse. What changed most was the understanding, shared by millions of people around the world, that speed and innovation cannot replace the ordinary rules that protect customer money. Anyone who keeps money on any financial platform, traditional or digital, now has a clearer reason to ask the most important question of all. How exactly is my money protected? And are those protections real or only claimed? The records, the testimony, the court decisions, and the eventual recovery all point to the same conclusion. Trust is the most valuable asset any financial platform possesses. Once broken, it is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. FTX showed both how quickly that trust can be destroyed and how much can still be salvaged when the truth is finally faced. The collapse of FTX became one of the defining financial failures of the modern digital era. It remains a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition, weak controls, and misplaced trust. The story of FTX ultimately became a lesson that innovation must always be matched by responsibility, transparency, and trust.